told you there's a 30-second window that determines whether your relationship thrives or struggles. A tiny moment that most couples completely miss, but that makes all the difference between connection and conflict. After 26 years and thousands of hours working with couples, I've discovered something that most relationship experts never talk about. It's not about learning more communication skills. It's about understanding what prevents you from using the skills you already know. Hi, I'm Dr. Gloria Lee. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what happens in that crucial 30-second window between feeling triggered and reacting, and how mastering this moment can completely transform your relationship. Here's what most experts get wrong. They focus on teaching you communication techniques using I statements, active listening, validation, all important skills. But have you noticed that when you're actually upset, these techniques go right out the window? That's because there's a massive gap between knowing what to do and being able to apply it in the moment. This isn't about willpower or commitment. It's about your nervous system and what happens when you get triggered. Let me explain with a real example from my own life. Early in my marriage, whenever my husband would say, "We need to talk about the budget," I would immediately feel my chest tighten, my face flush, and this overwhelming urge to either defend myself or shut down completely, no matter how many communication books I'd read. In that moment, I couldn't access any of those skills. Instead, I'd either snap back with, "I'm not overspending," or withdraw with a quiet, "Whatever you think is best." Neither response helped us actually address our finances. What I didn't understand then, that I want to share with you now, is that within 30 seconds of being triggered, if you don't intervene, your brain physically shifts from rational problem-solving mode to your protective reactive mode. Let me show you exactly what happens in those critical 30 seconds. When your partner says or does something that triggers you, maybe they use that tone of voice that reminds you of a critical parent, or they withdraw in a way that echoes childhood abandonment, your brain immediately detects a threat. Your amygdala, the brain's emotional system, activates before you're even consciously aware of it. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, stress hormone floods your system, and blood literally flows away from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking. When this part of your brain goes offline, your emotional brain takes over. In this state, you physically cannot access your communication skills or problem-solving abilities. The fascinating thing is, this entire neurobiological cascade happens within 30 seconds. Once it fully activates, it takes about 20 minutes for your body to return to baseline, which is why taking a time out during heated arguments is actually backed by neuroscience. But here's the transformative insight. If you can catch yourself within that 30-second window before you fully go offline, you could prevent that cascade entirely and stay in your prefrontal thinking brain. To understand how to use this 30-second window effectively, you need to recognize the 3 parts of yourself that show up in relationships. The wounded child, this is your youngest self that experiences hurt, neglect, or trauma. Maybe you felt unseen by busy parents, criticized for normal childhood behavior, or responsible for others' emotions. This part carries your deepest vulnerabilities and fears. The adaptive child. This is the part that developed to protect your wounded child. If criticism hurt you, your adaptive child might have learned to be perfect to avoid criticism. If abandonment scared you, your adaptive child might have learned to cling to prevent that. These adaptations help you survive childhood, but they create problems in adult relationships because it relies on the amygdala, or the emotional center of the brain, and its sole focus is on self-protection and not on how your behavior might impact others. The third part, the wise adult. This is your mature present-day self, capable of thoughtful responses, empathy, and considering both your needs and your partner's. This part can communicate effectively and solve problems collaboratively. It accesses the prefrontal cortex and considers how your behaviors may impact your relationship. Most relationship struggles happen when one or both partners are operating from their adaptive child rather than their wise adult. In that 30-second window after being triggered, you have the opportunity to choose which part of you will respond from. This choice literally determines whether you'll have a productive conversation or a harmful argument. So Exactly how do you interrupt this cascade within that crucial 30-second window? I've developed a method called S.T.O.P that you can use anywhere, anytime you feel yourself getting triggered. So S, sense your body. The moment you notice a trigger, maybe your heart speeds up, your jaw clenches, or your chest feels tight, immediately bring your attention to these physical sensations. Simply noticing my shoulders are tensing or my breathing is shallow begins to engage your rational brain. T, take a breath. One slow, deep breath, inhaling for 4 counts, exhaling for 4 counts. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which counters the stress response. Even mindful breathing can create space between stimulus and response. O, observe your thoughts. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Maybe you're thinking, they don't respect me, or they're trying to control me. Recognize these narratives without judging them. P, proceed with curiosity. Instead of reacting to your interpretation, get curious about what's actually happening. Ask yourself, what else might be going on here? What is my partner really needing? Let me show you how this looks in practice. When my husband mentioned the budget, in that 30-second window, I could sense my body. My chest is tight. I'm holding my breath. I could take a breath. One slow inhale and exhale. Observe my thoughts. I'm telling myself he thinks I'm irresponsible with money. Proceed with curiosity. He might just be feeling anxious about our finances. Let me ask what's concerning him. So instead of snapping or withdrawing, I might say, I'm noticing I'm feeling defensive. Can you help me understand what's concerning you about our spending? This completely changes the trajectory of the conversation. Rather than spiraling into our negative cycle, we can actually address the real issue together. Now, to make the S.T.O.P method even more effective, you need to understand where your triggers come from in the first place. Most triggers in adult relationships are connected to childhood experiences. This isn't about blaming your parents. They did the best they could with what they knew. But understanding these connections can help you recognize when your past is influencing your present. For example, if you grew up with a parent who was highly critical, you might be extra sensitive to any feedback from your partner. If your needs were often dismissed, you might overreact when your partner says they're just too busy to talk. Think about your most common reactions in relationships. Do you become defensive and counterattack? Withdraw and shut down? Try to please and accommodate your partner? Become controlling or perfectionistic? These are adaptive strategies you develop early in life. When you recognize these patterns, you can catch them more quickly in that 30-second window. I often tell couples I work with, the problem isn't you getting triggered. That's normal. The problem is not recognizing it's happening and letting your adaptive child run the show. When you catch yourself in that window, you can say, I notice I'm getting triggered right now. This feels like an old pattern. Can we pause for a moment so I can respond from my wise adult self instead? Here's how to develop this skill. Start with awareness, your thoughts, and your reactions. Practice when calm, the S.T.O.P method. It's like any other skill. It takes practice. Before trying it in heated moments, practice daily when you're already calm. Just like an athlete develops muscle memory through practice, you're developing neural pathways that you'll be able to access more easily when triggered. Start with minor triggers. Begin applying the technique with small irritations before tackling your biggest relationship triggers. Success with smaller issues builds confidence and skill. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Sometimes you'll catch yourself within the 30-second window, and sometimes you won't. When you miss it, simply notice what happened and try again next time. Remember, you're rewiring neural pathways that took years to build. Be patient with yourself. Share the process with your partner. Tell your partner about what you're learning. You might say, I'm working on noticing when I get triggered so I can respond better. If you see me getting reactive, would you be willing to gently point it out? The couples I work with find that when they master this 30-second window, everything else becomes easier. Their communication improves naturally because they're interacting from their wise adult self rather than their adaptive child. When you learn to use this 30-second window effectively, you'll notice dramatic changes in your relationship. First, conflicts will de-escalate much more quickly. What used to turn into hours-long arguments might resolve in minutes. or not become arguments at all. Second, you'll find yourself having completely different conversations. Instead of arguing about surface issues like chores or schedules, you'll address the deeper needs and feelings that really matter. Third, you'll experience more genuine intimacy. When both partners can stay in their wise adult selves, it creates safety for real vulnerability and connection. Finally, you'll start breaking generational patterns. By learning to regulate your own nervous system, you're not just improving your relationship, you're changing patterns that may have been in your family for generations. One couple I worked with practiced the 30-second window for just 2 weeks. And the wife told me, for the first time in our 12-year marriage, I feel like we're actually on the same team during our disagreements. That's the power of this approach. If you tried other relationship advice without lasting success, I encourage you to focus on this crucial 30-second window. If you found this helpful, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos to help you overcome your relationship barriers. Remember, the quality of your relationship isn't determined whether you get triggered. That happens to everyone. It's determined by what you do in that crucial 30-second window. Master that and you'll transform not just your relationship, but your entire experience of connection. Thank you for watching.